So like I told us, we will start from here. For those of us just joining, since I'm just recording, so we have navigated to the CompTIA Linux Plus. In the InfoSec Institute, when you sign up, just go to the search bar by the top most right-hand side and search for Linux, right? So when you search for Linux, like I told us, we'll be looking at the Linux CompTIA Plus, which is this, right? And then the Linux fundamentals, right? Which is this, the CompTIA Linux fundamentals. So you start from the CompTIA Linux fundamentals, right? And after that, you move to the CompTIA Linux Plus, right? So in the CompTIA Linux fundamental, I think some of the things we have done, like installing Linux, is done here, right? So you can go ahead and look at it. It is actually free of charge. Look at some networking commands also, how to view your network, to view your ports and all those things, right? So go ahead and look at them, right? They are all videos. So please take notes when you are looking at them. So this is just a 3-hour course. It shouldn't take us more than a day. So this is an introductory course for Linux. And some of the things we have done is contained here. The actual work we need to do is on the CompTIA Linux Plus. CompTIA Linux Plus. So like I said, just go ahead, search for it, and then, navigate to it, right? So Linux, there are a lot of courses there, but you look for the CompTIA Linux Plus. That is what we'll be using, right? So let me leave that and take that again. So this is the CompTIA Linux Plus. I just searched for it on my search bar and it brought it. So the two courses we are looking for is, first of all, the CompTIA Linux Plus Fundamentals, which is 3 hours, 40 minutes, and then the CompTIA Linux Plus, which is 22 hours, right? So those are the two courses we are looking at, right? So I have actually opened a tab for the CompTIA Linux Plus Fundamentals. So this is the CompTIA Linux Plus that I am telling us about. So when you click on it, it contains both videos and labs, right? So go through the videos. You can see from the first module, or from the first module, you have videos, right? If you click on show content, you see that they are all videos for you to watch, right? So go ahead, watch them instead of spending time on Netflix, right? Let's do that this week. So by Friday, please, we will take this very serious. By Friday, we want to know how many of us have finished up all of this, right? And when you finish it up, a certificate will be awarded to you. So that certificate, we have to flaunt it, right? By flaunting that certificate, I mean, you can post that on, social media, right? Post that on either Twitter or LinkedIn. We advise that you post them on either Twitter or LinkedIn. LinkedIn is more important, right? Because it's actually a professional type of social media. So you can go ahead, when you download your completion certificate, go ahead and flaunt it on LinkedIn. So you can also tag us, CSI is on LinkedIn. Peter Ode is also on LinkedIn. You can go ahead and tag us on LinkedIn and also write what you have learned so far, just to flaunt your certificate. That is how opportunities can get to you, right? So please go ahead. Those of us that don't have LinkedIn account, go ahead, create one. When you finish this, flaunt that, because I'll actually be looking for us online to see those of us that have actually completed this task. They're actually not task. So let's just give it time. In one day, you can complete all of this. In 2 days, you can also complete this, right? So like I was saying, there are videos here for us to look, but all of the videos we'll be looking at, right? There is actually the lab for us to practice all that we must have done in your fundamentals and in the actual CompTIA Plus, right? So we will take us through some of these labs, right? While we allow us to, carry out the labs on our own. These labs are quite tricky and they are very much, right? But it doesn't take time. And it's actually the lab that is making it the 22 hours. So your lab is just 12 hours, while the videos you'll be looking are 22 hours. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic, right? So let's look at some of the labs, right? So the first lab here is the basic commands and help. Basic commands and help. Please mute your mic. So let's access that lab and then see what is there for us. So I actually was on this lab before I left. So that is why they are telling me start where I left up or start over. So if you are doing your lab and maybe something comes up and you leave it and you return to it, you can actually start from where you left off. Is that okay? Can we still hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, so please, since we are on record, you can just indicate by, waving a hand or something, right? So let's start from where we left off, right? Which is this. So let's wait for our Windows machine or our Linux machine to load. So all of these commands, whether it is Ubuntu that you have installed or Kali that you have installed, right? Or Red Hat or Fedora or Parrot, Backbox, whichever one you have installed, all of these commands should work on them, right? And just like I told us, the Windows is a businessman, actually. So his products, he can develop whatever he wants for you to use on his product. But when you come to Linux, Linux is open source. It's everybody's product, right? So whatever command you learn here, anybody developing any command is leveraging on the Linux type of machine. So you running the commands of Linux, you can actually run that in every operating system. In most of the operating systems you find around, the moment you get access into them, right? So most times, if I gain access into either a network, a system, or whatever it is, the first thing I do is ls. For me, actually, I either do ls or I do pwd. And that is why even in this command, you can see that one of the first command we are looking at is the pwd command, which is the print working directory. I believe we did this in last week's class, and so many of us know what it is already, right? So, but this is a lab, so we can still go ahead and try to practice that, right? So they say, let's get started with basic Linux command line usage. The first thing we want to do is to find out our current working directory. One of the biggest challenges is this, right? Understanding directory structure. That's one of the biggest challenges in Linux, understanding directory structure. So, and it always confuses people. So that is why the print working directory is always important. I know we all have this account because most of us have created it already, right? So you can still be following through as we are doing this, right? So the first thing is the pwd, which we saw last week, right? So I can go ahead and launch the terminal here, right? On this machine. You know, this is a simulated machine. So I can go ahead and launch the terminal from there. And if you follow their instruction, they say either you can click here to copy, right? Or you can just type it pwd. Is that okay? So let's go ahead and type pwd. So they are showing us instance of what they did here, right? So let's go ahead and type pwd. We all know what pwd is, right? To tell us our working directory, which we all saw. So when you carry out a task correctly, you see by this side where the instructions are, you see that the stuff will be checked good. It will turn green and it will be checked. That's to say you have completed this task successfully, right? So you click on next. And if you can see down there, you will notice also that we have about 15 tasks. We have 15 tasks, you can see. So we are in task 2 of 15, right? So let's look at what task 2 is saying. So the next command they introduced to us is the cd command, right? And they also give us instruction of what the cd command is about. The cd command is used to change the directory to a specified location. So we saw from previous steps that our current directory is the home/admin. So you can see this was our current directory when we checked, right? And please, for those of us that are database administrators also, these commands can also be used on some shells in your databases, right? Although, you know, database use SQL commands, right? But some of these commands can also be used, right? You can go ahead, try them and see what they do, right? So the cd command is used actually to change directory from one directory to another. So our instruction here is that we should cd to this particular directory. You can see the directory is /usr/bin. So they want us to do that. So that is what you'll be doing, /usr/bin. So that is a particular location, and they want us to navigate to that location. So you can see that we have successfully navigated to that location, right? And it's showing us, or we are in the location, user/bin, right? So they say use the pwd command and make sure the current working directory is this, right? So we can still do pwd to determine that. So you can see that this task is checked. Now, why I am taking us through this is so that when we have challenges carrying out these tasks, forget that these ones are simple, right? As you do them, as you proceed, you might, you know, be challenged, right? So that is what I want. That's why I want us to, you know, understand how to go about a task, right? So we navigate to task number 3, right? And the command they are showing us here is the ls command, right? Which we actually saw also last week. The ls, which is list command, returns a list of all of files and directories and lists them in the terminal, right? So we are currently in this terminal, in this directory, right? So let's use ls command to see what is contained. So you can go ahead and do your ls command, right? So let's wait for it to show us what is actually contained in this directory. But if you notice, we have successfully done the ls command. And you can see that it has listed all the items that are in this user/bin location. So the ls command is used to actually list out items, right? So if you're in a location, you want to know what is contained in that location, it's just for you to type the ls command. So let's proceed to step number 4. So they say we should use the ls-l. I actually explained the ls-l to us the last time, that the -l stands for long listing, to have a long listing of your ls, right? So if you look at item number, say ls with modifier, ls-l, right? So let's list the files in the current working directory with detailed information such as files or directory permission, size, date, and time. You know, we did this last week also, right? So this just gives us a long listing with more detailed information about these items that are contained here, right? So that is what the ls-l is actually doing for us. So let's go ahead and include the -l, right? So if you do that, it will list out all of these items in a detailed manner. So you can see it's listing it out in a detailed manner, showing their permissions, showing you know, the dates, the time, the sizes of each of them, right? And I also told us the importance of this, because as a forensic examiner, if you actually have access to a system, you will not do just the normal ls. You will use the ls/ or -l rather. So you use the ls-l to do that, right? So let's proceed. The next command is the ls-lt. So last week, I think we looked at ls-la. We used the -a command also but them are also introducing us to the -t command. Now let's learn about several ls options. Search for the files in the current directory user/bin, right? While at the same time getting detailed information such as file, permission, size, date, and whatever. Then sort the return list by date and time. So the -t is sorting, right? It's used to sort it by date, using date and time to sort the list, right? So if you want to see who made changes to a particular item and the time that changes was made, you can include a -t switch or -t modifier to your ls. So what they are saying here is you do your ls, you list out, you do a long listing of the entire items in that location, right? And then include a -t, which helps you sort the entire file using your, your date and time. So this is a command, right? So let's go ahead and run it so that it will list out and then itemize them in terms of date and time, or sort them rather in terms of date and time, right? So let's go ahead. So let's wait for that to come up. I think that's taking a little longer time since we are doing some more tasks, right? So it has come up. You can see it's actually sorts the whole thing up, right? Sorts it with the date and time. You can see January 30, January 29, 28. So it's coming from up downward, right? From up downward, and that is what they want us to achieve here. So understanding and using package options is a powerful. You need to know how to twist or tweak any command you are using, right? Any command you are using, you have to know how to, use that also as a Linux person, right? So let's proceed. We are still in basic commands, and most of these commands are stuff that we looked at last week, right? So they also added a -h, right? And they say if you want to read the file directory size in a human readable format, run the command -h. So let's run the -h and then see the difference between what we have and what the -h is going to give to us, right? So let's have that. The system is getting slower though, but let's wait for it to come up. So we'll be adding the -h, right? So that it will appear in a human readable format, right? Let me first of all clear my screen. Remember we used the command clear then to clear the screen, right? So since the screen is cleared, let's do the ls -lh, right? So h. Let's wait for it to come up. So you notice that it will present the files now in a human readable format for us. Then you can easily read and understand what the file is about, right? So you can see it's actually telling us that this is a zip. Of course, you can actually pronounce all the names that are here, right? So you can look at this to understand the difference between this and what we did before. Now they say we can see that all the files are listed in a human readable format. Also, as with the previous steps, we can get all the details of the directory, right? So we can get all the details, right? All of this, the permissions, the size, the date, and all whatnot, right? So you can go ahead and play around some of these commands, right? Just as what is given to us here. Now we notice that this is not checked, right? The moment it is not checked, you know that you have not finished your task, right? You have not finished your task. So let's wait for it. I think it's because the network is slow. It's actually slow here. So the thing is not coming up, right? So if that is done, we can now proceed. And please ensure that all of your tasks are completed. Otherwise, you will not be given a certificate, right? You will not be given a certificate. And I told some of us the other time, for you to be a good cybersecurity person, you need a good network, not hotspotting your phone. So you can get a wireless router, right? A good router that can serve you, right? Because network is actually a major challenge when you try carrying out some of your activities, right? So let's wait for this to come up. It's actually delaying. So it's actually getting slower. Let me try to restart this terminal. Let me refresh the page. I guess we can all still see my screen and you can hear me clearly.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen and we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So let's continue. So let me start from where I left off. So we are doing the ls-lh. So let the machine load so that we can proceed. So I want us to do as many tasks as we can do together so that as we progress, we will not be having challenges. And when you have challenges, please, you can always drop them in the group chat or you can chat me up directly, right? So that we can, settle that before next class. But by next class, everybody should have finished this course. Let's wait for it a while. I think it's still coming up. So some of you might know we are not using the carry that we loaded. Yes, you can still go ahead and use them. But what I want is for us to use these few days and achieve this certificate. Is actually a good one. If we can do that, let's use this and achieve the certificate. And please flaunt it on your social media handles, right? So that people will see that you have achieved it. And then you can tag CSI so that people will also know that what we are doing, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I don't know why this machine is taking time to come up. Let's give it a while. While we are waiting for it to come up, I can still go ahead and launch my machine, my Linux-based operating system. Just like I told us, you can use any of them to achieve what we are achieving here, right? You can use any of them to achieve what we are achieving here. But just know that this is a lab, so you have to complete it for this certificate to be awarded, right? For all of these commands we are playing here with, you can actually go ahead and play with them on your Linux machine, on your Linux-based machine. Let's give it some more time while we are waiting for this to come up. I'm setting up my machine. So there are quite some tasks here that I expected that we are expected to do. You can see the CD, the PWD. I am actually waiting for the machine to come up, but those of us that can see it, please, you can go ahead and practice this task, right? The commands, you can see change directory, PWD, we have done that. You can also see, you know, the make directory. The make directory command is used to create a directory. We looked at this also last week, right? And the ls is also used here. So go ahead and do them. Let's see other tasks. So the ls-le that we looked at last week is also here. Go ahead and do that. The, what's it called? The cd var to access the var folder is there. The cd ... to access one folder backward, right? I think we looked at this also last week. Right? Let me see. I think my machine should be up by now. It's still coming up, right? And the PWD, we have looked at it. I think the only command we didn't look at is the cd ... right? We can go ahead and look at that, right? Then we also have the TTY command. So the TTY command is, let me see what they wrote. This command displays the terminal name we are currently logged into, right? The terminal name we are currently logged into. So for instance, every terminal on your machine has a name, right? Let this guy come up so that we use my machine for the practice, right? But please endeavor to finish these tasks. Use your machine and finish up the task, right? So that we can be on the same page. So this guy is still taking time. So there are quite several other commands. The who am I command. Who am I command is actually used almost like the PWD command, right? It's used to ask who am I, like who the particular person that is sitting on the machine, who is the person, right? Just like the PWD is used, right? So that's the who am I. The PWD is used to print the particular location that you are in, while the who am I is used to determine the type of access that you are, who you are, who the person is, right? The type of access that that person has is what the who am I, you know, provides. Then we have the W. So the W command, which is the what command, displays similar information as the who command, right? But in more detail, right? So who is a command. What is also a command, right? So you can use the W command also to determine who you are, right? So let's look at man. I think we looked at man initially, then the man open SSL. So the RHEL offers offline help, for instance, via manual pages, right? Man pages are installed with the package and provide detailed information on commands and configuration. This includes short and long description, usage, options, bugs, additional inferences, and manual. So that is what the manual pages does. I think we also explained it the other time, right? So the manual pages can give you the manual of a particular tool. So what they just used here is to look at the manual page for OpenSSL. Now we have a task. All of us, we have to know what OpenSSL is used for. So you have to know that. And to know that, you use the man command. Is that okay? So I think my machine is up. Let me go ahead and try out some of the commands we have looked at in this place, right? Like the who command. Since the machine, the simulated machine is reconnecting. I don't know why it's doing that, but I believe it is network that is making it to do that, right? So I guess we can see my operating system. So one of the commands we looked at the other time is cd space ... And I told us that is a command used to move one step backward. One step backward. For instance, you're in a particular folder, you're in a particular location. You want to move one step backward to the location you were before coming to that location. Use the cd ... So for instance, if I am in this location, right? This location, let me see what the location is, PWD, right? Is I'm in Kali, home/Kali, right? So, and I do cd ... right? It takes me backward to another location, which is the home location. You can see from here, I was in the /home/Kali. That's Kali is inside the home, right? And I did cd ... It took me one step backward. So I'm backward to home, right? So that is what the cd ... helps us achieve, right? So I want to go back to Kali. I will then cd Kali. So I'm back to Kali. So if I do my PWD now, I'm back to Kali. If I go back again with cd ... I am in home now. I can do ls. You can see the only user in this home here now is Kali. If I do another cd ... I move one step backward. If I do ls, you see that we have several items here, right? This is the home that I was sitting on. This guy was the home I was sitting on. So there are other operating system enabled, folders that are here. You can see that user folder that we accessed the other time, right? You can see the root folder. So we have moved backward, right? So, and if you are in this particular location, the sign also changed. So you're in the slash location. You can see that there's a slash there, right? So we're in the slash location. For instance, we do this. You can notice that you're in the slash location. That's PWD, print working directory. So you notice that we are in the slash location. Is that okay? So one step backward, you use the cd ... right? So let me move back to home. You know, home is a folder under this location, right? So I move back to home. I'm now in home. I now move back to Kali in home, right? So I'm now back to where I started from, right? So let me clear the screen. You notice that I'm back to where I started from, right? So we went ahead and looked at another command. The command is the, the W command, the what command, okay, or the who am I, rather. We looked at the who am I command at first. So let's go ahead and look at that, who am I? For instance, if I tell this guy, who am I now, it will tell me that I am Kali. You notice I am the user here, Kali. You notice if I do PWD, you notice that I'm home/Kali. So the user here is Kali. Let's do this cd ... and move backwards and see. Then let's do who am I? So I'm still Kali, right? Because I'm actually the user. I'm logged into the Kali user. So whatever I do, it takes me back to Kali, right? So if I do this and do the who am I, it takes me back to Kali. Okay, if somebody is saying something, please go ahead and just type it on the chat box. I'll respond to that, right? So that is how it is, right? So you can do who am I to determine who the actual user is, right? So let's go ahead and clear our screen. We also looked at another command, the TTY. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic, please. The TTY command, right? So the TTY is telling us the terminal we are logged into as, right? Yes, the slash command, the slash directory is the root directory, right? This directory we are presently now is the root directory, right? So this is a slash directory. Let's move forward to home and then to Kali, right? So let's now, this is where we are supposed to be. So let's now do our TTY. So TTY is telling us that we are in this particular terminal, right? So if I go ahead and open another terminal, right, and I do TTY, right, it should tell me that I'm in another terminal, right? So TTY just tells us the number of terminal that you are in. For instance, I've been doing something on this terminal and I come here and type, history, for instance. I want to see all that is here, right? And I have the history here. And I now come to this other terminal and I type history. You see that I don't have the history here. So at times you might be working on a particular terminal and you have moved or you have opened another terminal and you are doing something and it's not working for you. You should be able to know which terminal that you were on, right? Before you actually left to do that, right? So the TTY helps you to know the terminal that you are sitting on, right? So let me go ahead and close that. I think we have looked at that. So another command is the W command. So the W command gives you a detailed information of who you are, right? Detailed information of who you are. So it's telling you that you are the user. The user is Kali, right? The TTY is the terminal is terminal 0, right? And it's telling you the time you logged in, right? So what W is telling us is the two terminals we have opened, right? The two terminals we have opened and the time they were opened, right? And the time they have been idle, right? The idle time, right? And then the CPU, the number of times, the seconds we have used, or the seconds we use the CPU, right? And other informations about, the user that have logged in, right? So that is what W does. So it's like showing you what you are, right? So the next command is the who command. I'm just looking at the commands they looked at, right? So the who command is just telling you who you are, Kali, right? Which is Kali. So while the W command, which is the what command, explains or gives you several other details about it. So we also looked at the man command, right? The man command, let me go back there. We looked at make directory. This make directory command, we saw it also last week, right? How to create a folder or a directory, right? So you can go ahead. This is, let me see, this is this location, the Kali location. I can navigate to my desktop. I want to create a folder on my desktop, right? So I'll just CD to my desktop, and then I now create a folder using the command make directory. So from their commands here, they say you should name the directory directory1, dir1. So this is the name of the directory you want to create. This is the name, and this is the command that you use in creating the directory. So if I press enter, automatically you see on my desktop, I have a directory name directory1 here, right? So I can still CD into that directory, right? Which is this ls. There's nothing in the directory. If I open the directory now, you notice that there's nothing in it, right? So that is how you make a directory, which is what they are saying we should do here. But please, the tasks they have given to us, endeavor to finish them, finish the lab so that we can have our our certificate, right? Let's look at notas. So ls-la, we looked at it the other time, that the -a gives you list out both hidden files, right? Dash L is long listing. By long listing, we mean it will tell you, the permission that that file has. You understand? But it's not listing all the other files that are hidden. So if you want to list out files that are hidden, you add the switch -A, right? So you can do something like, let's go back a step and then do something like ls. You see, if you do ls, it's telling you that you have dir. Let's leave the desktop and go back a step again. Let's go to where we have stuff. Okay, so we have the download documents and all of this, right? So let me clear that. If you do ls-l, it gives you long listing, telling you this is a directory, this and all this information, the date it was created and all information. So if we do this at the A, it gives us list of both the ones that are hidden. Like all of these ones now, are hidden files in this location, right? So that's what the -A does, right? So if we -H now, it does it in a human readable format for us, right? In a human readable format for us. So that's what -H does, right? So we can also -T, add the T, right? So, list it out in a sorting manner. So it's sorting it from May 12th, right? Down. So this is 2059, 2059, 21 o'clock. So it's taking it from up downward, right? So that's the sorting. So you can actually add as much switches that you want. You remember, this is the switch I use. I did ls, then I added a switch -L, -A, -H, -T, all of them together, right? So you can go ahead and play around that. So let's look at the next task they want us to look at. PWD, we have looked at that. CD ... we have looked at that. CD/var is just to access a particular location, just like what we have accessed before. So CD/var, you have entered the var location. If you do your ls, these are the items in your var location. So that is what they want us to achieve here also. MPWD and all whatnot. So follow the instruction, finish your task so that you can have this. So we have TTY, which we have looked at. Who am I? We have looked at who am I also. We have also looked at W. We also have looked at, okay, we have not looked at the man OpenSSL. So OpenSSL is actually a tool that comes with our Linux. Like, I told us before now that Linux comes with a lot of tools. So OpenSSL is a tool you use to administer security, like certificates. What's this called? Certificate authority, that most certificate authority uses to implement security, right? So it's the OpenSSL. So you can go ahead, do your reading about OpenSSL. So you can man OpenSSL and read what it is about, right? So it's a cryptographic toolkit implementing the secure socket layer, right? And transport layer security network protocols and related cryptographic standards required by them. So the OpenSSL program is a command line program for using the various cryptographic functions of OpenSSL. OpenSSL's crypto library from the shell, right? So creation and management of private keys. So you can actually use this to create and manage private keys, public keys, and parameters, public key cryptography. So for those of us that have done cybersecurity as a course before, I believe you must have been hearing of cryptography. So this is what you use to implement cryptography, right? So it's actually very good for some of us to, learn about OpenSSL. It's not something that you learn and finish it in a day, right? But we all need to know this, because this is what is used to implement. When you see your HTTP and you see an S added to it, is actually what is used to implement that. There are actually several, tools like we have read, it's a toolkit, right? And when we say a toolkit, it's just like, a toolbox that has several other tools inside of it, right? So that is what the OpenSSL is. So go ahead, read about it. You can see it can be used to create S.509 certificates, CSRs and CRLs. Those of us that did, I think there was a time some of us did this thing on this course on cryptography. So this is what you use to create all of those things, right? So go ahead, read about it. It's actually explanatory here, right? So these are other options you can use if you want to use them to create, to create all of those things. So if you want to create certificate authority management, you use the CA option, OpenSSL CA, right? Ciphers, CMS, cryptographic message syntax, certificate revocation list, and all whatnot. So these are various tools that we will refer to as options. I told you is a toolkit that has several tools inside of it. So the options here that we are seeing here are actually, those tools I'm talking of. So you call the OpenSSL and you try to implement one or two of these, options. ROSA and key management, you use ROSA and all whatnot, right? So I'll just exit from that. You can do your OpenSSL, OpenSSL, right? So these are those tools I'm talking about. You can see them, right? So the moment you just type OpenSSL, you can see those like the CA I talked about. Look at CA here. Look at CMS here, right? So you can also learn about them, right? OpenSSL. So what they just want us to do here is to man OpenSSL and practice it, right? Read it, please. Read OpenSSL and understand what it is used for. You will need it. So you can also do the OpenSSL -- help, right? I think it's synonymous to what I just did by typing the OpenSSL, right? -- help. It lists out all of the items and tools that you can use, right? So these are the standard commands, the standard tools you can use. CA for certificate authority, certificate revocation. You want to revoke somebody's certificate, you use the CRL, and all whatnot. You want to create X509 certificate, you use it, right? So you can go ahead and practice or learn about the OpenSSL. So I think that will be done for this task if we go ahead and carry it out successfully. Okay, there's another command that we need to look at. It is actually the touch command. So the touch command is used to create a file. I remember telling us that there are several ways you can create a file. It told us one of the ways to use Nano. Another one is Mousepad. You can either echo, you can also echo a content into a particular file. So touch is also, a tool you use to create a file. So you can go ahead and create a file. So for us to do that, let me get out of the var. Okay, now I'm in the root. So I'll go to my home /Kali. So I'm in home /Kali now. So let me go back to my desktop. And then I want to navigate into my new directory that I created, dir1. So I'm in this directory that I created now, right? So what I want to do is to touch, I want to create a file, touch practice, for instance. So if I do ls now, I'll be able to see practice as a file created inside that folder, right? I can remove that practice using the command remove. If I do my ls now, it is no more there. I can touch it and put it back there by creating it, right? So that is what touch is used to achieve. Can use it to create file. You can see my practice file that I created. It's there, right? So that is that for this lab, this particular lab of basic commands, right? So let's see if we can look at another lab again before, leaving the class, right? So the next lab will be to, let's go back there. This is where the labs are: system administration, to administer Linux system. So the next lab is Bash Shell. Bash Shell, right? So let's go ahead and start the lab. So modifying command prompts. Now, Bash Shell, what is Bash Shell? I told us then that while we are doing this class, we'll be looking at Bash scripting and also Python scripting, because most of the commands that are run on Linux-based machine or on kernel, most times uses the Bash operating system. Sorry, using the shell, which Bash is one of the languages that shells are being developed with, right? So we'll be looking at Bash shell. Bash scripting most times is used to, write programs that run on Linux machines. So even if you carry out a hack on a machine, right, you can write your script on that machine and run it on that machine to do the activities you ask it to do, right? So let's look at this. You see, the command prompt can be modified. And one of the attacks here is for us to modify the command prompt, right? So the command prompt can be modified. Okay, so the command prompt can be modified to display relevant information. To change the prompt, the export PSI equals command is used, right? Below, we make the prompt display the user's login name, right? The current host name and the current working directory. Notice that we use variable substitution by using the variable pwd, right? Using variables makes it possible to have information change. In this case, the current working directory will change as we navigate. So they want to play around with Bash scripting, right? So let's go ahead and carry out these tasks. So let's see if their machine will come up for us. I'm trying to get that on the machine. Let's see if it will come up for us and behave itself. So now this is how Bash scripting looks like. And we are going to, maybe during the class, as we progress, we'll be writing some Bash scripting and save them that we can, use on our own, right? For instance, you can actually insert your flash drive on a particular system and then copy a particular type of file or do a lot of things. Actually, most of our viruses are written with Bash codes, right? Most viruses, as a matter of fact, most 80% of the viruses we have today are Bash scripts. They are Bash scripts code, right? Because they are like kernel codes. The kernel understands them better. right? So that is one of the things we want to use. Now, the export PS1 command is a command you use to change, modify and display information, right? To change prompt, we use this command. Below, we make the prompt display the user's login name, right? The current host name and the current working directory. So let's run the command and see. So we want to call the variable log name at the particular host. Now the host is also a variable, host name. Right? Then the print working directory. We want it to print the working directory where we are. So it's also a variable. When you see the $sign in front of a particular item, you know that they're actually trying to declare a variable. So what it does now is to print the current working directory, right, for us. It's printing the current working directory for us. So this is actually a basic bash script, right? But let's see what they want us to achieve with it. The command prompt can be modified to display relevant information. To change the prompt, the export PS1 equals command is used to change the prompt. Below, we make the prompt display the user's login name, which is home/admin here. So let's go ahead and try this on our Kali machine. Let's see the information we'll get. I was actually thinking I'm sitting on the Kali machine. Export PS1. So it has printed the username, the actual username, the actual person that is sitting on this machine, right? And if you notice, it has actually changed the background from where I was to this particular way, right? So if you are in this type of machine, you know that, okay, you are actually in the Kali, you're actually the Kali user. So what this command just did for us now is to move us from this information to this information. So somebody just saying it will know that, okay, this person, the user here is Kali, right? The user here is Kali and is in the home location. So that is what we just did here. So what we just did here was to export the login name, you understand, the host name, and then we print the working directory. So that is how bash scripts actually work, right? So we are going to be looking at most of the bash scripts. Most of the bash scripts, we are going to be looking at them and also see how we can save them and make use of them in subsequent class, in our subsequent class. So please go ahead. I will create out time for us to, for those of us that will have challenges while we go while we try to carry out these tasks. so that we can look at them together, right? But please go ahead, carry out these tasks, and then let's see how you can complete them before Friday next week. Okay, so let's take questions, right? Let's take questions. Okay, Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Questions.
Okay,